Are you ready to take your business to the next level? Every day there are countless books and articles that are published offering the key on how to make your business a success. It's easy to feel overwhelmed trying to keep up and run your business. That's why Deb Creer created the Business Power Hour. Keep up on the latest trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. Let the Business Power Hour do the heavy work for you.
Good morning, good morning. I am Deb Creer, and I am passionate about giving professionals the tools that they need to make themselves and their businesses as successful as possible. And today, we're not going to be talking about things like marketing and websites and financial. We're going to be talking about you and how, especially being a business owner, a business executive, things like that can kind of mess with our little heads on occasion. And so how can we get through this? And so please join me in welcoming Vicky Midwood to our program today. Welcome, Vicky. How are you?
Hi, Deb. Hi, everybody who is listening in. I am great. It's Wednesday, the middle of the week, and I love a Wednesday. Woohoo! I
know. Here in the States, clearly people can tell that you are not here in the States. We call it hump day. and then you have camels, right? Because, it's one of those weird American quirks. So let me tell you.
Woohoo Wednesday. It's
that's better. I like Woohoo Wednesday. Better than hump day. Right? Well, let me tell folks a little bit about you, and then we'll jump into this. So Vicky Midwood is a health and life coach specializing in behavioral strategy. She helps business owners, leaders, and professionals to create lasting behavior change by identifying the hidden patterns that drive stress, emotional eating, alcohol, perfectionism, people-pleasing, overthinking, and high performance without fulfillment. She is also the host of the podcast Raw Chatter, Unfiltered Stories of Addiction, Recovery, and Reinvention, and I was very honored to recently be a guest on that podcast. So again, Vicky, welcome.
I'm so happy to be here and to speak to your audience about the importance of themselves when it comes to business, because ultimately you are your business.
Right.
Sometimes we forget that.
I know. Well, tell us a little bit more about how it is that you got to where you are today.
Well, it all began a long time ago, as all stories do.
Right.
I never even thought that I would be a business person, to be quite honest. I really hadn't got a clue what I wanted to do. You know how some kids know what they want to do?
Like when they're 6.
Right. I was not one of those, but was I? And this is kind of why I do what I do. Because the way that I was brought up, and I didn't know it then, but the programming that went in is a very big factor in where I kind of changed how I showed up in the world, how I behaved, and tried to mold myself to fit in. Because I did want to be a vet. I wanted to be a vet. However, my dad, bless him, I'm from a part of the UK that's Yorkshire. It's called Yorkshire. And if anybody has heard of it or know, we are very blunt. Some may say rude, but we don't beat about the bush. We call a spade a spade. We call it how it is. And if you don't like it, it's kind of,
that's your problem.
Right. So I recall being around about 8 years old. And I remember distinctly my dad saying, "Nah, you'll never do that. You're not clever enough."
Oh,
right. And so that was kind of an idea of my upbringing. My dad was a workaholic with incredibly high expectations. And I was frightened of him. If things were not done well, then he would be very verbal about it. He wasn't particularly tall, but just his voice was very intimidating. And so as a kid, I was very much on eggshells. And little did I know at the time that I used to use comfort and food as comfort, rather, to really kind of get close to him. He was rarely around. Now, knowing what I know about business, and I'm sure so many people listening will be able to resonate with this, he was growing his business because he wanted to prove himself, but also He inherited the business from his dad, who suddenly died of a heart attack when my dad was 21. He didn't want to be in that business, but he had no choice. And unfortunately, people behind his father's back had basically made the business very unsustainable. And there was a lot of debt and there was a lot of stuff going on that my dad at 21 somehow had to sort out. And so, not through choice, he became excellent at solving problems and growing his business because he wanted to be a success, which meant connections, going out, literally burning the candle at both ends.
Right. You mentioned he was a workaholic.
Right. I rarely saw him, but when I did, it was around food. Now, I'm sure many people can connect with this. As families, what do? Holiday times, get-togethers, time off, you go out for a meal or you have a dinner together. But no, not with my dad and not with me. I was a rubbish sleeper as a kid, terrible sleeper. And so he would come in from yet another evening out of connecting and what have you. And around about midnight, he would be trying samples. So his business was food. Surprise, surprise. So he would be trying samples at midnight. And guess who would smell? So little Vicky would pop downstairs and go join Dad and eat food. And that was my connection with him. And so not surprising then that food became an issue for me. It was comfort. It was connection. However, there was also criticism for not looking a certain way.
Right.
So as a young girl, you're not meant to be stocky. You're not meant to have a little belly that sticks out. You're meant to be kind of petite and pretty and all that stuff.
Cute.
And I didn't fit that right. I didn't fit that. And so on the one hand, I would get praised for having a good appetite. But on the other hand, I would get teased for having puppy fat and being built like the proverbial brick house. So confusion in a small child's mind.
And your dad telling you weren't smart enough to do stuff and
right. Yeah, exactly. And so little did I know that over the years, food would become my thing. I wanted to have the body. I wanted to be acceptable. I wanted to fit in. I wanted to look the right size. But I also wanted the connection and the comfort that food gave me. And so I discovered that if I stuck my fingers down my throat, I could literally have my cake and eat it. And so I did.
Right.
For many years. And along with smoking and drinking alcohol to numb out, that became really how I lived my life for a long number of years. It began really fully as a serious problem when I was 11 years old.
Wow.
And I didn't go into rehab and finally get some help. Not all of the help that I needed, but some, not until 2005 when I was 36. So there's a lot of years of battling myself. But in the meantime, building a business, having a child, getting married, doing all of the things.
Right. The things you're supposed to do.
That you're supposed to do. And most of the time blaming myself for not being able to get a grip, not being able to take control, not being able to sort myself out, because that was the language that I was brought up with.
Right.
Yep.
And was it your dad's voice in your ear saying that?
It was, but also I think it was at the time, there was so much, I'm talking about the 80s and 90s, where there was so much around about how celebrities looked. Thin was very much in.
Yeah, they were twigs.
Right. But isn't it kind of full circle? When you look now at what you're seeing with the GLP-1s and with the amount of people who are still being criticized and judged purely on their body size. And yes, it's mainly women. Is it men too as well now? Yes, of course, because of social media and celebrities and stuff. But mainly it's targeted at women. And this idea that we should be small. And so I spent a lot of years trying to be small, but I wanted to be big in my business. So what I'm saying is, and I don't know if anybody who's listening can relate, I was literally living in a contradiction the whole time.
Right.
I was battling one thing while wanting something else, but taking the steps and doing the behavior that ensured I stayed here and I never got to there. And this is the kind of issue that I help people with, because I was convinced And anybody listening who has got an issue with food or with alcohol or with recreational drugs, smoking or gambling or shopping or anything like that, an external thing, is going to think that that is the problem. When you feel like you're in control, and then suddenly you're not. And that, I think, is everybody's story of addiction. No one puts up their hand and goes, yeah, I want to be
Yes, I would like to be an addict.
that's my, I want to be a vet. No, I want to be an addict. I didn't say that. But over time, the behaviors were so powerful that you literally do feel that you cannot control them, that you cannot stop them.
Right. They control you.
Right. But for the very longest time, I would convince myself that I was in control. And I would tell myself I could stop throwing up and I can stop binging whenever I want. But I don't want to.
Right. There's nothing wrong.
Right. It was my story. Why would I want to stop doing something that I convinced myself was working for? What I didn't realize was what other people saw. Because you can't see the wood for the trees.
Right.
When you're in it, you don't know what other people are seeing. And I think I'll never forget one Sunday lunch. We went out, just my husband at the time, my first husband too. We went out for Sunday lunch, and I love food. Here's the thing. Of course I do. I just don't want to be fat. I don't want to keep it inside me. And so I would do my usual. I disappeared to the loo. By this time, I had been doing it for over 12 years. I was excellent at throwing up. I mean, I was really good, right? I've got it down to a fine art. But my husband, in his wisdom, thought that he would do something that would perhaps give me a shock. So he then disappeared and did the same. Now, he wasn't good at it, right? He
took him a while.
came back bright red in the face, all the veins sticking out. And his point being, this is you. Now, that was like, whoa, in your face. Did it help me to stop? No. Right. And this is where I think, again, as a business owner, I've done it, and I'm sure you have. We've used criticism as a way of kind of carrot and stick.
Right.
Make us do something. Right. In my case, that didn't work. All it made me want to do was make darn sure I was much more sneaky.
Right. Hide it better.
I would hide it better.
Right.
So I got to be an even better addict.
Right.
That's really what happened. Because I didn't know what I know now back then. But the fear of not having this thing and having to deal with how I would feel within my own skin to not throw up, I didn't even dare go there. I couldn't comprehend it. I couldn't even imagine it. And this is something that I think so many people may be familiar. We've got podcasts, and I love listening to podcasts, and I'm sure you do as well. Real conversations with people, you just don't know where they're going to go. Right. But a lot of the time, I think we hear people talk about, creating the life that you want and picture yourself living the life that you want.
And we see it on social. We see it on TV. All of those things.
I couldn't do that. I had no clue how to even imagine a life not doing what I was doing. Why? Because I couldn't really remember a time when I hadn't had
It was normal
relation with food. From 5 years old, I was stealing sweets and chocolate bars. Where we grew up was literally next to a shop, so I could open the dining room door. Because my dad was in the food industry and he was very innovative. He was the very first person who brought microwaves over to the UK, right? So he's always been somebody who's been a little bit ahead of the game. He brought frozen foods into his small supermarket before Iceland and all of the sort of well-known frozen food places exist. And even before they were really a thing in the major supermarkets, he was already doing it. And so our house was next to the shop, which meant you could always keep an eye on the business. But it also meant that I literally had a door to get whatever
Easy
I wanted,
access.
whenever I wanted,
Mhm.
and I would steal. I would steal chocolate bars and I would steal sweets, and I would hide them under my bed. And I'm talking 5 years old. So guess what? In my 20s and 30s, I'm still doing this behavior. I'm still repeating it. And what I didn't recognize then was I'd created a pattern and a habit that was my identity. So of course I couldn't imagine not doing it.
Right.
What I didn't understand was that, when you get one addiction, it's a little bit like having an autoimmune issue.
Right.
You
You
kind
get
of-
one, then you pick up another one, then you pick up another one.
Right. And so, alcohol came in a small way. But it had always been a bit of a thing. I think I remember one Christmas, I was about 10, getting a little bit drunk and enjoying it. And
Well,
I
and at
remember-
10, it wouldn't have taken very much. Probably not enough that anybody even noticed.
No, to be fair, and it was over a Christmas day, so it's all allowed, and everybody fell asleep. And I remember lying on the floor giggling, and thinking, "Oh, this is
fun."
because I was taller than a lot of my friends when I was younger. I'm not now, but fairly short in the grand scheme of things. But I could get into pubs when I was 13, and I could get served. Now, I know the laws in America are very different here in the UK, but you can legally go into a bar and buy a drink at 18 in the UK. But at 13, I was going in and getting served, no problem.
Wow.
And so I would regularly go out on a Friday and Saturday night with my friends. I would order the drinks. They were all drinking beer because it was cheaper. I was drinking wine. Why? Because it worked faster. It was lower in calories. And 3 glasses hit the spot. Perfect.
And you were a teenager.
I was 13. And I distinctly remember many, many weekend nights coming home on the bus, just feeling at peace. And that was a time when food wasn't in my head. I wasn't planning a binge. I wasn't working out where I could get more food from to binge on, because this is the other part about binge eating and being a young kid. Wasn't working. Where was I getting the money from? Food isn't cheap.
Right.
You don't binge on the foods that are around the house.
No, because they are somewhat healthy or just, not.
The family will know.
Right.
who's eating them.
Yeah.
So,
Why do we not have a pie?
right. And I must admit that did happen on a number of occasions, and the lies that you embellish. And
Right. You dropped it. Yeah. Oh dear.
Yeah. What a shame. Yeah. I tripped and fell. Yeah. But I would steal food. And I would plan the shopping expeditions to be able to go and shoplift the food for the binge that I would then later.
And you got the thrill from stealing. So another
addiction. And this is where you realize you collect them. So the alcohol allowed me to not think about the food and to not be in that mindset. And this is the thing with addiction. What is the difference between an addiction and a habit? And it's that obsession.
Right. It's a very fine line.
It is a big fine line. And I think you don't really know when you've crossed over, and that's why it's so difficult, because it's more of a big blurry wavy line as opposed to an obvious one. And I think sometimes, because you don't feel like that all the time, you just keep convincing yourself you have got it under control and you can stop.
And if you're not falling down drunk, I mean, it's functional alcoholism is and
What?
yeah, people don't.
Later on?
Yeah,
But-
and so you weren't that people didn't go, oh wow, Vicky is drunk out of her mind. They went, Vicky's having fun.
Not until later,
Right?
but definitely not
Because you needed more.
right. And that's the thing. So we talk about it's the dose that makes the poison. And I know these are cliche phrases, but they are cliche for a reason.
Right.
Because they're true.
Because it happens all the time. Right.
But it's true. Whether we're talking about a food issue in terms of whether you've got some kind of intolerance, the dose makes the poison. There are a lot of people with intolerances that you can have a certain amount and you're okay, but tip it over that edge and then you're not.
Right.
And it's knowing what is the thing for you. And what we don't know, especially as ladies, as much as we do now,
Mm-hmm.
is how much the female cycle and the hormone fluctuation
Right. Yeah. Is going to change how your body functions.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
How it metabolizes it, how quickly you have an effect. So I realized that alcohol helped me to quieten that brain, to numb out to some extent. And I didn't have the hunger signals at all. So I was kind of doing this with both food and with alcohol for a very long time. Alcohol made it easier for me to not to eat. And I convinced myself that alcohol made it easier for me to then throw up when I did eat. And it was kind of acceptable, because if you've drunk so much that you need to be sick,
Right. Then, people were like, oh,
oh, she's overdone it. Oh, heads down the low. Kind of acceptable. Yeah. Not unusual. So we've got the two, if you think about it, the two easiest evictions. Readily available. Everybody accepts that people will drink too much now and again. Everybody accepts that people will overeat now and again. We use food and alcohol to celebrate, to commiserate, right? It's not restricted. We're not breaking any laws. And so you can convince yourself that, you know what, it's not that bad.
Right. My friends are doing it.
Right. It's not that bad. And I think that is one of the phrases that keeps so many of us stuck in these patterns for so long. It's not that bad. But then the question becomes, but how bad is bad enough?
Right. Yeah. Where are you going to hit that line where you go, ooh?
Yeah. Right. Exactly. And for me, I knew I'd hit it. I knew I'd hit it in my 20s. But what I didn't know was what to do about it.
Right.
Yeah. And
because you hadn't been around anybody that had dealt with it.
Well, you hear, and this is the thing, when we just saying the word addiction, and I'd love your readers and listeners, whether you are somebody who reads the show notes like I sometimes do on Spotify, or if you actually are watching, that just ask yourself the question, when you are doing any kind of behavior pattern or habit, when do you say, or how many times have you said, it's not that bad?
Right.
Yeah. Right. And think about in what context. Not that bad for whom? Not that bad for you, for your partner, for your friends, your parents,
right,
kids.
And if it was them, well, that's their problem, right?
Right. Yeah. And when it's bad enough, that bad that you're going to do something, and we can't know what we don't know. And if people are listening, hear the word addiction, what automatically do you think of?
The first thing that you think of is ooh, right?
Right.
Yeah. And then usually my brain will go to drugs, like a drug addict. But
A
yeah,
picture in your head.
Yes,
right?
of a person. I mean, like they look like they've really had too much. They might not be clean. They might, all sorts of things. Again, you're not seeing the functional, addict who is able to basically act. I'm putting this in my little air quotes, normal, right?
Right. And it's the same thing if you hear the word alcoholic. A picture.
Right. You think of
your
the bum.
Right. And this is such a really well-worn picture and image. We see it in pictures in terms of magazines and articles, but about films. And it's this stereotypical way of looking and behaving and being. But the reality is that if you walk into any of the anonymous meetings, and there are billions of them around the world, you are seeing lawyers and doctors and solicitors, along with, people who are nurses and people who sweep the streets. In other words, addiction don't care. Right? It doesn't care your status, your creed, your credibility, your sex. It just doesn't care. But we have this picture that somehow it's and why can't this person get a grip, and why can't they take control?
Right. What's wrong with them?
That's what I thought. Right? Of course. And I'd heard of AA. I think most people have. AA have done a brilliant marketing job. We have heard of it, and thank goodness, because it's incredible. But I wasn't one of those who went.
You didn't need that.
Not that I didn't need it. And here's the thing. when you're in addiction,
Mm-hmm.
and I think sometimes it's not sometimes, I think often
Mm-hmm.
it's the same in business.
Mm-hmm.
We don't actually know what we need.
Mm-hmm.
We think we know
Mm-hmm.
what we need,
Mm-hmm.
but that's coming from our current
Mhm.
mindset
Mhm.
and the identity that we currently have. And our perception of what's actually the problem
Mm-hmm.
isn't necessarily the problem.
Mm-hmm. Right.
You will have seen this, I'm sure, when you've advised in businesses and they can go, oh, Deb, look, I know the problem is this.
Mm-hmm.
And you're looking in from the outside and you're going,
No.
right,
Mhm. Right.
it's actually over here.
Mm-hmm.
And so I literally debate, well, I'm not one of those people who goes to AA because stereotypical, I don't fit that box. And anyway, I haven't got the time. And if I'm absolutely honest, which as an addict, I wasn't ever, even to myself. But if I was terrified. Who would I be? How would I live?
Right.
How would I cope without my crutch? Right? Because
It made you funny. It made you popular. It made you smarter. All of those things.
Yeah. And I mean, and I did go through those phases of having amazing times. Right? I had some incredible times. My first husband and I, he drove a Porsche 911. That was the attraction. Right? He was tall, he was handsome, people knew him. We would go out and we would go to bars and it would always be, a bottle of champagne, sir, VIP lounge. Who's not going to like that at 18?
Right.
Right? Of course I did. And so I figured that I was having a great time. Right? Internally, I knew this was a problem. And it wasn't fun anymore. It was a compulsion. And I was shoplifting to fuel it. Fast forward to me having a child, to me splitting up from the person who I moved down to London to be with, and me realizing that I was in a mess. But I didn't know what to do about it. I really didn't. And what do you do when you don't know what to do about anything? You keep doing what you know.
Right. Yeah, because it's what you're used to. That's the thing.
I had no clue then about the brain, about the body, about how the body and brain talk to each other. I had no idea about childhood programming and trauma and all of that kind of stuff. Not the foggiest clue, right? I just knew that I had to somehow keep on going and bring up my child who, by the time that I'd moved into a house on my own without anybody around, she was 7 and I had to keep going. Now, I went to see my parents in the north of the UK at the opportunities that I had, which is a single mom, work, school, holidays. Holidays, right? It's not in US terms, but in UK terms, it's quite a long drive. It's about 4.5 hours.
Ooh.
Right? So it would be an overnight stay or sometimes 2. At this point, I'm in my 20s, 30s. Yeah, no, I'm not. I'm in my early 30s. And I would do these trips. And my mum was at this point in a nursing home. She had her own mental health issues. My dad had been divorced with my stepmom. They made it very, very clear that if I came to visit, I was not going to stay with them. I would stay in a hotel. So I knew that I had to follow.
That's a good support system.
Right. And this is why I mentioned about my dad earlier, because he was very much of the, you got to be cruel to be kind. But when you're in it as the person on the receiving end of the what's seemingly cruel, you can't see that it's kind.
No.
It just feels cruel.
and dads are not supposed to be mean to their little girls. I mean, that's the thing.
But also, it meant that I had an opportunity for the universe to step in, and he did. So I was going on a trip up there to see them, and the guy who I was kind of seeing at the time said he wouldn't be around, and fine. But he literally pulled up in his car and said, you know what, I'm going to come with you last minute, grab everything, change, and is literally about to leave. Now, at this point, I was literally drinking to function. And I wasn't downing bottles of spirits. But I used this because you can see that if I put a wine and soda in here, which was my drink of choice, right, it looks kind of off.
Right. Yeah. That's not water in that water bottle.
Right. It looks a bit like pee. Or actually, in today's world, it looks like a vitamin drink.
That's it. Yeah, that's okay. Vitamin drinks are good.
It was a bit weird, right? So I would get the little tins of gin and tonic, and I could put 2 of those in one of these. No.
Right, because they were clear.
But I picked up the wrong bottle and
no.
left the other one in the car. So literally between driving from London to the north, I started to get withdrawal symptoms.
Right, because you were drinking water.
I was drinking water. So, within the space of 4 hours, my body was already going into this state of withdrawal. And that really was the start, because somehow I managed to get through the weekend with DTs and literally was starting to hallucinate. And fortunately, my dad picked up my daughter, took her out for the day, and we went home the next day. But I didn't get help for at least 3 days before the guy at the time recognized actually there was something wrong. And I was talking to a pretend radio that did this, right? And basically was just doing weird stuff. Went to take me to my GP, and basically she said, get her into rehab.
Yeah. Now you're taking her, you're going to commit her.
Yeah. And that was it. And thankfully, local rehab was literally 20 minutes away from me. So marvelous. Went in there. And that was really the start of me starting to learn properly about the body and the brain. Now, I'd been a fitness instructor. That was my business. I was running my business. I was teaching classes. It was the picture, supposedly, of health. That people were going, oh my God, I wish I was as fit as she is. Literally, if they know, I was living on black coffee and cigarettes and basically throwing up what I was eating and then drinking alcohol to get energy. That was my life, but the picture of health. Right. And I was like a machine. I was energetic. I was full of it. I was always pushing them harder because that was how I'd been brought up. Do more, earn more, achieve more, be the best. And so I got to rehab and I suddenly learned about the body in a way that I hadn't, not just physiology and anatomy that you need to be a fitness instructor, actually how the brain and the body function. And I literally came out of there going, why doesn't everybody know that? Why don't all as humans actually know how we work? And so I set out on a mission to find out how we worked. And that was before the internet, right? So libraries, books, and finding out about the gut-brain connection before it was even a thing. And I was looking at why my gut health, because I knew that there was a physiological reason why I wanted to eat the foods that I did. And it wasn't just as simple as you're addicted to sugar. It wasn't, right? Now, did I understand it? Did I get to understand it? Yes. I wanted answers. And that has always been my mission, to get answers. And there was nobody that I could go to who could answer all of my questions. So I was like, well, you have to figure it out yourself then. And so I really decided to do what I do because I wanted to be the person that I needed when I was going through my issues. Because there was nobody who could help on the health side, but also the mental well-being side and understand the power of language and programming. So I literally went on a training mission and I became a teacher. I didn't even know if I wanted to stay in the fitness industry, but I did. I set up a new business here in London. Again, I started doing boot camps in parks and teaching Pilates in church halls, whilst also earning a bit of a wage, teaching part-time. Hated it, by the way. Red tape and me working for somebody else. Just no. But somehow you figured it out. And really my fitness business turned into my coaching business because people were coming to me with issues that they weren't getting answers to from their
with their regular GP or their friends, their minister, whoever.
No, they just couldn't, and they go for blood tests. And everything's normal. And I'd be like, okay, let me find out what's going on. With my own health issues that without a doubt are very much linked, not necessarily caused by, but there's a correlation. I had a heart attack at 49, which I knew would happen. I knew it was going to happen. Right? Which sounds quite blasé, quite arrogant. Oh, I knew it was going to have a heart attack. But my dad's side of the family had...
Right, you'd mentioned died at a young age.
Right, and also my mum's side too. So it's kind of like, well, you know what? Both sides, it's probably going to happen. But I was having my own health issues. That I went back to my GP with the same symptoms and I went through the list of, what is it myself? Is it seasonal affective disorder? Because it seemed to kick in sort of January, February each year.
Right, and in the UK, you got a lot of dark.
Oh my God, yeah, miserable, dark, rainy, So, but no, it didn't seem to be that. Then I went back a second time. Oh, it sounds like it's a virus. Oh, you're also very busy. It sounds like, a bit run down, doing third year, she's like, could be early menopause. Went back again, and she went, you know what? I think I'll give you some antidepressants. So I was like, whoa, okay. Now you've drawn the line.
Right.
Because that was the trajectory that my mum and her issues started on. And I thought, you know what? No, I need to know what's going on. The reason I do what I do is because I saw my dad's health deteriorate. He was a workaholic. He had blood pressure issues from his early 30s. By the time he took his own life in his 70s, he was on a shopping list of medication. And it was the side effects and the combination of medications that led to his brain not working in the way that it should. His cholesterol was way too low, but he thought that was great because his doctor told him low.
Right. You're supposed to have low cholesterol. You don't want to have high cholesterol.
But not that low that your brain can't actually function properly. And so I saw him deteriorate through medication. The same with my mom. She had thyroid issues that were missed. She got a bipolar diagnosis. And nobody was looking at the physical side of it because they were so focused on the mental. She died of the side effects of her shopping list of medications, right? So as soon as somebody goes to me medication, I'm whoa, hang on.
Right. Yeah.
Let me find out what's going on first. And so because of my mind of going, I want answers, went to somebody who did some blood tests, and he's the one who said, hey lass, here is another the two. How the hell are you still standing? He said, because looking at these markers, you're heading for a heart attack, diabetes, and potentially you've got Hashimoto's, the autoimmune issue. He did a few more tests, and so we did. And I went, Hashi what? I've got what? Right? So he explained what it was, and I went, okay. So because of these issues and me finding out how to help myself without conventional medication, I was able to answer questions to people who were coming to me going, well, I've got this issue going on and I've got that issue going on. I started to know what are the right questions to ask them. How do I get the information off them that they don't necessarily connect together so that we can look at how are you thinking? What is going on in your environment? What are the words that you're talking to yourself with in your own head about yourself, but also other people, right? What is the pressures you are putting yourself under, the expectations that you believe, true or not, other people have of you? Because often the physical issues are just a signal. Right. Something else is going on. Right. And this is what I've learned over the years. So studying CBT and NLP and understanding gut health deeply, hormones, epigenetics, neurology and neurobiochemistry. Because if you don't understand how all of this works, how on earth can we know how to work best with ourselves? Right. If we're running a business, don't we want to show up as the best version of ourselves? Right. With energy, with focus, with clarity, with being able to make decisions quickly and but also live, because otherwise what you're working for. But if you're working that hard that there's no time for play, or you're with your family but you're not really because you're still in your business.
Right. You're checking your email, you're
right. So this is really why I do what I do, because I knew that that was what was going on for so many people who were working out to get fit. But actually it was another thing on the to-do list.
Right.
And so they weren't necessarily getting the benefits from it. And that's really why I do what I do. I want people to not end up like both my parents did, on a shopping list of medications, half of which they didn't even know what they were taking them for.
Right. The doctor said I should take it, therefore I will take it.
Right. But also to connect to this and this, because we're not chopped off here.
Right.
Now, and if we look in the mirror, and most of us do most mornings, and some of us say nice things and some of us don't, but my point is, this is not separate, is it?
Right. Yeah, the brain is attached.
Your brain and your mental health is a part of your whole body. It is not a separate bit. And when we can help people to recognize that they can be so much more in control of how their brain and body work together, that they can then create the lifestyle, the health, the identity that they want, which makes them feel content and fulfilled and happy in their own skin being themselves.
Right.
And that's really what I do, because so many people walk around exhausted, wishing they had more time. And there's a classic book, and I'm sure you've read it, and if you haven't, you've heard of it, The 5 Regrets of the Dying. And that is one of those books where, people say, I wish I'd taken care of myself
Right.
more, not put other people first,
Mm-hmm.
but also stop putting off the stuff that I wanted to do
Mm-hmm.
and stop trying to be nice to
Mhm.
save people's feelings, but be truthful.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And this is something that I think all of us need to take on board, because as a business owner, it can often be two camps, and I'm not a fan of either or black or white. It gets us, the binary thinking is a nightmare. And I think that's why we're in the pickle that we're in with so many people with anxiety, because they believe that there's a right answer and a wrong answer. There's a right decision and a wrong.
Right.
As you
And
I know.
whichever one they do is the wrong one.
But as you and I know, there's multiple decisions, because no matter what decision you make, there's going to be an outcome, and then there'll be another decision to make, and then there'll be another outcome, and then there'll be. So can you go down a trajectory that wasn't what you expected? Yes, but then was the decision wrong, or were your expectations? So this is where ask yourself the right questions, and that's really what I do. Is I help people to uncover the patterns that they created, like I did in my childhood, the stories that they're telling themselves, and that they have done for decades, but they didn't even know were still running their life. But they're the very things that are stopping them from getting what they said they want. Right? To help people know they're not flawed, that they can do what they want to do and have the health that they want, and the business and the relationships. You can. You can only do it when you understand how you work as a whole human, not as separate bits.
Right.
Which is how a business works.
Right. Yeah.
ultimately.
Yeah. You go to work, you do there, and then you go home, you do there. The people that annoy me the most are the people who talk about work-life balance. And to me, of course, balance is 50-50, right? That's balance. But it never ever happens. And, because when we're at work, we're thinking about the dog. When we're at home, we're checking email. And so there is no balance. And I think the problem comes in when we try to force it, or we feel I'm screwing up because I don't have that.
Right. And that's, do you know what? That is one of the phrases that I absolutely hate. Right? Because it is absolute bunkum.
Right.
There is no such thing. Work is life and life is work. And you can't separate them, because you are part of all of it.
Right. Yeah. You're still going to think, oh, this happened at work. And whether you're the boss or not, you still are thinking about things that happened at work, or things that you got to do tomorrow, or whatever it is. And when you're at work, you're thinking about stuff in your personal life. I mean, that's just very few people, in fact, probably nobody, can turn that switch off.
Well, here's the thing. I think it's about boundaries. It's not about balance. I think it's about priorities.
Right.
And I think it's about recognizing everything does this. Right? Nothing is just this. Right? It'd be boring as hell if it was, wouldn't it? Right? You'd think about a stagnant pond.
Yeah,
You're looking out on the sea and there's no movement at all. It's like, but then when the waves start crashing in, it gets a little bit interesting. But there are always going to be times where shit happens. Life lives. So if a business issue comes up, you're going to make that a priority, because you'd be an idiot if you didn't, right? You want your business to succeed. So does that mean that by default, something else has to take a bit of a back seat? Yes. Does that mean you're flawed? No. It actually means you're a smart human being, right? Who's got half a brain. There will be family issues that crop up, and then they are suddenly priority. Why? Because they have to be. Right? So guess what? Will business take a bit of a backseat when that happens? Yes. Same reasoning. Because we understand that life is going to life, and there will be things that have to be prioritized at certain times. Some of them will be in your control, and some of them will not. But you have got to know yourself, your identity, your values, your belief systems, what is important to you, so that you can actually decide what is going on. And then the key thing, I think, Debs, is communicate it clearly.
Right.
When you let people know, it's a whole different ball game than when you make an assumption that they're going to be okay with it. That's when we have problems.
Right. And it is true to communicate. I've started doing something that kind of works, kind of doesn't, but at least I'm trying it. On Friday afternoon, my computer goes off. And it doesn't get turned back on until Monday morning. Now, things happen, right? So, am I still checking my email? Sure. things like that. But I have told people, no, I'll deal with it on Monday. And they always say, okay, right? You know, and that's the thing is we have the expectation that they're going to say, no, you have to do it now. And, you know, and no, it can wait. You know, one of the things that I learned very early on when I started my business was boundaries, right? Because people would say, well, you work from home, therefore you must work 24/7. And I did for a while. And then I figured out this is really stupid. And so, you know, I told them. And of course, the way that I got it across to them was money. I would tell them my hours are 9 to 5 or, you know, whatever it was. I am more than happy to work evenings, weekends, and holidays. It will cost you double. And they all went, okie dokie, it can wait. You know, were there the occasional emergencies? Yes. And then, of course, the key was to charge them the double, because if you didn't, they went, oh, next time she won't charge us, and there we can push again, right? But yeah, when I told them, no, you know, I'm just not going to do that, everybody was fine with it. But it's like you said, you have to communicate it.
You have to communicate, but also what you've given a beautiful illustration of there is that somebody who clearly knows what her boundaries are. Right now, a lot of people are people pleasers, right? And you know that term's an interesting one because it's not all negative, it's not all positive, right? We want to do nice things, and we want people to feel good about themselves.
We want people to like us,
right? We do. We want them to like us. It's when we do that to the detriment of ourselves that becomes a problem, and when that becomes our fuel for validation or self-worth, it becomes a problem. But for many people, this fear of what other people may think is so powerful. And in business, it depends on how you have come up through the ranks, as it were, in business. If you have been a part of a company where that has been your role, and to behave a different way, you are in some way criticized, ostracized, judged, or even you lose your job over it. Well, of course, you're not going to do that. You're going to be too scared to. So I think, again, it comes back to values and worth, but our own personal experiences. And, you know, people will procrastinate so much. Oh, my God, what are they going to say? How do I do it? And so what do? We go back to what we know. And it's because our brain is wired to do the stuff that we know. Why? Right. The simplest reason, it takes the least energy. Right? It's as simple as that. The brain is a very simple thing. We can take charge of it when we know how it works. But when we don't know how it works, oh my God, will it take charge of us? And it lies to us. They're going to say this about you. They're going to think that. Right? And it's not true. The brain will go on literally predictions and then it will adapt. And what it predicts is not the truth. It predicts based upon the past or what you might have heard somebody else say about somebody else, and then you internalize it about you. And when you know that you can put in clear boundaries, and guess what, people accept it, it's great. And I'm a big believer, and I think you are too, that the customer is not always right. A lot of the time, the customer's pretty dumb. You need to treat the customer in a way that shows them how to treat you. Because that is when you get a respectful, trusting relationship. But it comes from you as the business owner. And that means having self-esteem and confidence and belief, and as you said, boundaries. And a lot of people manage to get to a certain level in business, somehow not with those strong, powerful boundaries in place. Right? Maybe they've got a charisma and maybe they're good at manipulating. You know, a lot of business people are narcissistic in nature. And, you know, I'm not saying that in a negative way because it helps you in business.
Right. That's part of what makes them a success.
That's a success. But also then it's recognizing, where do you draw the line? Because your body physiologically needs certain things to function really, really well. And so many people believe that they are different and invincible. And, you know, in some way, shape, that happens to other people, but it doesn't happen to me. Yeah. You know, the heart attack at 49, I kind of knew it was going to happen, so it wasn't a shock to the system. But I was lucky. What I didn't know was, would that heart attack be one and done, and I'm not here anymore, or would I survive it? Because for many people, it is one and done.
Especially when you're that young, because you're thinking that's not really what's happening.
Right. And especially for women, because there's no obvious signals on
Right.
something.
We don't have the pain in the arm and all of that good stuff.
Oh, and you're not literally clutching your chest going, oh my God, I'm having that. That's not what happens. And so this is helping people to recognize that if we want to function well in business, our physical health has to be a priority, because your physical health and your mental health are hand in hand, right? One isn't more important than the other, right? Again, it's not an either or, it's an and. They are both equally as important. And if you learn to work with them, there is nothing to stop you at all from having the business, the relationships, and the lifestyle, and the joy and the energy and the health that you actually do want, without it feeling too hard. Because most people make stuff way too
Right. Like you said, we make things up that don't exist.
correct. Yeah. And the story is, oh, change is hard. Being healthy is hard. No, it's not. It's just that you created habits and patterns that actually make not being healthy and not feeling full of energy easy, right? So it won't be that it's hard. It will just be unfamiliar. And when we change hard for unfamiliar, right? And it's just unfamiliar for now, because if you do it for long enough,
then it will become familiar.
right? And it won't be hard at all. It will just say, this is who I am. This is what I do. And that's really what I help people do, whether that's actually in their business or in their mindset or with their physical health. The process is the same. There's an art. There's an art to it. You have to have awareness first, right? Without awareness of what is going on, what am I thinking, what am I doing, what actually is the real issue, you can't make a change because you don't know where to start, right? What a lot of people then do is jump straight to taking action. Oh, I know what it is. I'm going to do this.
Yes, I'm going to fix it.
Right. So they jump from the A to the T, and it's like, well, Helena, art, there's an R in there. You have to take responsibility. You are where you are because you made choices.
Right.
And you repeated the patterns. It's on you. It's not a blame shame game, right? But recognize I am where I am because I repeatedly kept on doing this. I didn't know, but now I do. Now it's our responsibility to change it if that is what you say.
Right.
Because only you can. But most people don't know where to start, and therefore they take action, start in the wrong place and go, it's too hard.
Right. Or they switch from one addiction basically to another, right? You know, I knew somebody one time who knew that she had, you know, a problem with, you know, all sorts of things. And so she switched to, oh, I'm going to get really, really healthy, right? So then she's getting up at 4:00 in the morning to go and work out for 4 hours a day. And and she did, she just switched from one addiction to another. And because she didn't know why she was doing any of it. You know, and it's interesting when you were talking, I was thinking about a gentleman that I worked for many years ago, God, probably 40 at this point. And he was a candy broker. Does a great job, right? You know, we had a warehouse of candy. And he was also well over 300 pounds. You know, and you know, and mean and nasty. I mean, but he could also be the nicest guy in the world. I mean, it was kind of one of those things. But we would go into the warehouse and find candy bars that were half eaten because he had just done this, right? And grabbed it. And he literally ate the paper too. I mean, he just, you know, and when we found that, we're like, oh, Bob's having a bad day. And, you know, and he literally could not control any of that. I mean, it was just, there was a reason he weighed 300 pounds. And, you know, and yeah, he had no business doing what he did because, you know, it was like you were saying with your dad, it was very easy access for him to go and get that. And, you know, but then, you know, then we would call his wife and we would say, hey, Mary, Bob's having a bad day. You know, and sometimes you really had no idea what had happened, but, you know, and he actually lived a lot longer than I expected. You know, I looked him up one time on the internet and he had an unusual enough name that I was able to find his obituary. But, you know, 99% of the time he was fine. When he was not fine, he was really not fine. You know, and we see people like that, you know, all the time. But again, they don't recognize it, just like you were saying, you know, and
you can't recognize it in yourself. And,
right.
You know, there's so many things that you brought up there in that, you know, when he was having a bad day. Yeah, because it's driven by chemicals. It's driven by hormones.
Right. Yeah. And so he needed that sugar hit. And
Right. And the body knows what works because it's learned from the past, and it goes to the past for reference, and it goes, oh, when you feel like this and you did that last time, it worked, made you feel calmer, made you feel able to cope, go do that thing again. And so it becomes unconscious. And this is where, anybody who has found themselves like, with a packet of biscuits and they're like, how did I eat all of them? I don't even remember eating the last one. It's because it's so mindless.
right.
Because you're getting the signal and it's not conscious. And this is where you can't change this to yourself unless you work with somebody who can help you to take what's in your unconscious and bring it up into your conscious, and then help you use the right language so that you can do what you need to do. And it's baby steps, but it's baby steps with the right stuff in the right order for you.
Right.
And that's why you can't just go, okay, this is how you break an addiction. This is how you, no, because everybody's story is different. Everybody's trauma is different. Everybody's programming, language, associations, interpretations, perceptions of what words mean, right, are so different. And the crux comes down to we rubbish at communicating with ourselves, and we don't know how to connect and communicate with our own body. But when you make that communication better, everything changes in all areas.
Right.
And we do like extremes as humans. This is why it's black or the white. Well, guess what? There's a whole load of different shades in between, right? This is where the magic happens, not at the extreme.
Right.
And if you're going from saying, I want to get fit and I want to lose weight, and I've never stepped foot in a gym and I'm going to go 4 times a week, well, good luck with that. You'll stick with it, if you're lucky, maybe for a couple of weeks, but then you won't. And guess what?
Because you're probably going to hurt yourself.
Right? You'll either get injured or it becomes too hard, too exhausted. And then it makes it worse because the story you now tell yourself is you've just reinforced, you can't do it.
Yes.
You're not good.
You're
enough.
stupid.
This doesn't work for me. It's too hard. And
Right.
so many people spend their lives in this loop of doing the wrong stuff in the wrong order
Right.
for the wrong problem. And that's basically what I help people to do.
Right.
And I do it in a full day. So when I spend a full day with people, as opposed to doing, over 8 hours, just do it all in a day. We look at your patterns, we find out what's really going and what's the thing under the thing, right? And then we can help you to say, right, what feels connect to your body. I teach people to connect to their body and listen to what it's telling them. And then what feels like it's something that you can do without your whole system going, oh my God. When they know that and they start to just implement it, literally, oh my God, I'm starting to feel different already. And there's the beauty depths. You do the right thing in the right order for you. It doesn't take very long. But then it's the consistency. And so that's why I work with people over 30 days and we do it over WhatsApp so that they literally go, this is happening. What do I do? And I'll go, you do this. Right, this email's come through and I want to say this, but I know that's probably wrong. So what do I say? And we will work through. This conversation's just happened. I'm ruminating it over in my head and tell me what to say. That's where I can help them to learn the baby steps because you can't know what you don't know until they don't need that kind of help to that extent anymore. And it's different for different people. Some people, 30 days, they've already made massive changes. Other people could be 90 days. But the majority of people, if they keep doing the different stuff consistently, they make the unfamiliar familiar. They change who they are being and how they are showing up. Not only do they benefit, but everybody around them does as well.
Right. Right. And I tell people sometimes the absolute strongest thing you can do is to ask for help. And so if somebody is saying, Vicky, I need help. We will have a link to your website in the show notes. And, we mentioned you're in London, but hello, technology allows you to work with everybody everywhere. So tell us a little bit more about what the services are that you provide.
Yes. So and this is the joy, isn't it? We have Zoom. We have got WhatsApp, which is everywhere. And so a lot of my coaching I actually do, as I said, in real time on WhatsApp.
Right. I just sent a quick little message.
Yeah, send a message. You send me a voice note. You send me a screenshot. Whatever you need to do. And we literally deal with the issues in and of that moment. So you don't have to wait for, oh my God, my next session. Because life's life tons of times before, especially if you do a weekly session, so much stuff happens in a week. So, but the VIP day, and the beauty of it is, depending on where you live, I'll fly out to you if you want me to, and you put me up somewhere. I'm very happy to do that. We can do that VIP day though online on Zoom if needs be. Is it better to do it in person? Yeah, of course.
Right, because you can read body language and all sorts of things.
Yeah. And where possible, if I can go into that person's home, it's not always possible, but if it is, because I can see the environment that they're in. And that makes a massive difference. You know, what environment are they in on a daily basis? Because it will affect how we feel, how we function, how we think. And so when we do that, we then we go on our WhatsApp journey for 30 days. And we don't really need anything else. I'd like to, if the person wants to, have a Zoom call midway through that 30 days. And then we take stock and we reflect and we just literally ask those questions, right? How were we to start with? Where are we now? What's working? What's not? What needs to change? A lot of that work gets done though in the 30 days in real time. And that's why I enjoy it. And then you decide what you want to do in terms of long term. What often happens is that the thing that you came to me with that was the bigger issue is no longer. And we now focus on other stuff.
Right.
So I end up working with clients for a long period of time because I'm working with their business, or I'm working on their relationships, or I'm working on their exit plan for their future. Because the thing that they came to me with, whether it was drinking or food or whatever, it's well and truly in the past. And now we're future focused, which is the joy of it. And so I offer different, various lengths of time, how much you want to see me and all that kind of thing. But it doesn't really matter where you live. Time can be a little bit of an issue, but I am an early bird in the UK. I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, which tends to kind of work for Australia. And of course, it's morning for you in the UK and it's afternoon for me. Morning for you in the US and afternoon for me in the UK. So UK and US work. Australia and I work because I get up at stupid o'clock in the morning. But that's me. And that is what I do. I have a website. You've mentioned my podcast on my website.
Oh, and you're getting ready to write a book?
I'm getting it. Well, yes. And I have written this. This is my first book. This one.
Yay.
Thrive, Not Strive. And then this one is a collaboration. And you know what fun it was to do a collaboration. But this is women overcoming adversity. And every story in here is short. And they're all businesswomen. And it's all relatable if you are in business. But this book, is really helping people to understand when you know the patterns, you can deal with the right problem in the right way. And that is what I'm excited about, because it's not just about you, the person. You can relate it to everything. Because everything affects how we function, how we think, and how we feel. And that is what I'm about. I'm about helping you to think, feel, and function in a way that gives you joy.
I love it. I love it. Well, Vicky, we need to continue this conversation again, because I think this is something that is very important. But until then, do you have any final thoughts that you want to leave everyone with?
I think the most important thing that I would like people to take on board is to recognize they are a whole human. They're not separate parts. The mind and the body, the head and the heart, the mental and the physical, it's all you. And allow yourself to listen to the signals that your body is giving you, because the body will give you clues. Let yourself do yourself the biggest favor ever. If you are struggling, reach out for help to somebody who has got what you want, who has been where you have been, and can help you to take the right steps for you to think, feel, and function. So asking for help is a strength, not a weakness.
Oh my gosh, I love it. I have been having so much fun talking with Vicky Midwood. We will definitely have you on again, because we see things getting worse, I think is probably, and so the more we can talk about it and make it normal to talk about it, I think that's the thing. And so we will have you on again. But I'm Deb Creer. I've been having a delightful conversation with Vicky Midwood. And until next time, everyone have a great day.
Tune in for our next program for even more trends, best practices, and techniques for how to make your business a success. The Business Power Hour, hosted by Deb Creer, is proud to be part of the C-Suite Network.